Hey y'all, I'm sitting here and over the past couple of weeks, really, I know the last upload I had was like a month ago, I've just been thinking more deeply into like my roots of my problems. And, one of them, as a 23-year-old woman who wants to have kids relatively soon, not within this year, not within next year, but within a few years, and is learning and looking and paying attention to different techniques and with other things and in parenting and thinking about how I would want to do it. And then, of course, I know I've talked so much about my past on here and stuff, so obviously what I would not want to do the same, what I would do, which is far and few between. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what are children? Children are innocents. They are innocent. They are the definition of innocence. And what is going on right now and what has been going on right now is not a manufactured practice of protecting innocence. In fact, it is a manufactured work of terror against children, I think, and horror. Like, because what I think about my childhood, and it's like I didn't really have until 10, I had like one of those flip out phones with the keyboard thing on it, but you couldn't play any games or anything. It was just to let my mom know I was here or there or whatever. But now I'm looking at these kids now and it's like, oh, they don't have a fucking chance. Not unless their parents really step the fuck up. But everybody's raised by iPads and iPhones. And then I look back at my childhood, and even though there wasn't that, with this whole like unfucking that I'm doing with myself and like what I've learned, what I'm going to take from that, what I'm not, whether it be health, wellness, fitness, schooling, career, politics, whether it be race, whatever, all of the ideas that I've once had have changed because I've removed the wool that was over my eyes. And that wool is not created by any specific thing. It's not the government pulled the wool. No, it's everything, right? It's this whole concoction of bullshit that society has made for us to believe. And really all it does is hurt us and kill us and make us sick. So with taking all of that and figuring out what I may or may not want to have in my life and how I do things differently, and I'm weird and I do things differently, holistically, like I've talked about, I'm thinking back to my childhood and with trying to do it with more, nuance. And the one thing, because I've talked about on here before, no, I didn't have a father growing up. Not at all. So that's a big issue. Big issue. That's like one of the number one issues. And then I have the whole thing with my mother. But the other thing is, I think like the whole latchkey type of kid, they're left to their own devices, right? And then those devices actually became devices. And is that that's the right term. Yeah, it's, but like, I think about the shit that I did as a kid that like I didn't even get caught doing. And it's like, who the fuck was watching me? Nobody was watching me. And I'm looking at society, I'm looking at people that are a lot like me. I'm looking at, me and my boyfriend talk about this a lot. I'm looking at, people that I meet on a day-to-day basis or people that I might talk to, or maybe I'm making judgments. Everybody does, right? But like, whenever I'm making judgments, it's usually off of somebody's behavior. It's not just off of somebody's like looks or whatever, although we're all guilty of that, right? But like, where was the preservation of innocence in my childhood? Because I can't seem to find it. My mom was taking me to rated R movies, and not just the ones that were like just funny or like violence or something. They had like full-blown sex in them. Like, where was that? Where was that preservation of innocence? Because the funny thing is, I'm sitting here and I was looking on Amazon Prime, and there had that Rudolph movie, that old one, like that's almost like puppet-like or whatever. And I remember being a kid and watching that. And then like I have a weird brain, okay? But I had the correlation to like, and then somehow I became a teenager who hated my own innocence. I hated that I was naive when really, wish I would have dug even deeper into it. Not to hurt myself, like, by not growing and staying naive and all that. But, like, I remember still knowing, like, I was a virgin. And I hated that. Why was nobody around to tell me, that's a beautiful thing? That's a beautiful thing. That's a great thing. That's not anything you need to worry about. Granted, I did hear that, okay? It's not like I didn't. But I'm thinking of it on a bigger scale where were all these people telling women, not just me, women, hey, it's not about being a conservative and only providing for men, right? It was the whole, Margaret Sanger, whoever came out with the birth control so women could just fuck without responsibility anymore and, like, they don't have to have kids and shit like that. So it started with that, like the casual sex type thing. But it's like, why didn't anybody truly sit down with women and talk about how beautiful it is to have virginity? Like, it's really cool because I look back and there's people I wish I would have never hung out with. We'll say that. You know what I mean? Like, why did I do that? And I did that because I had no father at home to tell me that I was beautiful and he loved me and I could spend time with him instead of searching for love and commitment and care from random boys who weren't going to give it to me. And I'm not going to sit here and say that my mom didn't say anything about that, but my mom also is somewhat of a man hater in a way. Liberal enough to be a man hater, but conservative enough to, like, mind her business a bit. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I feel in my head, I guess if you know me, that would make sense and that'd be funny, but, like, it was just enough, right? Like, she loves the gays, but with all the other shit, nah. Just, there was a balance there, right? I don't know where I'm going with that. But, like, I just don't get it. I don't get, like, I do. It's all a plan. You can't, I know I sound so weird and I sound like a conspiracy theorist with this shit, but it's like, clearly there was a plan to divide, to make men weaker, to make women not modest and or women anymore. I mean, true womanhood and taking ownership and respect into their femininity, that, and then now there's a whole weird ass fucking thing. But, like, I it's just crazy because I watched it with myself. I fell in every fucking trap because there was nobody preserving innocence. And then you can't expect public school to do that shit. Fuck, bro. There's trends, there's phones, there's this, there's that. Nobody can try and find solitude within themselves as who they are. We're concocting ourselves into these different fucking things. So it's just like, where was that? Every trap I fell into, hating your fucking body, starving yourself, wishing you weren't a virgin, sleeping around with guys. Like, all of these things that people say are like, that's just what you do when you're young. No. If I have daughters, I don't want them to do that. I'm not saying you have to be a virgin until you get married. You're your own fucking person. I can't control that. I don't want to control that. That's not me. But, like, want them to have enough respect for themselves that I did not have to choose wisely who they allow in their temple. You know what I mean? Like, to truly be like, to not be ashamed that they are a virgin. I remember being shamed or, like, I truly do. I remember the guys that would judge you or, like, look at you and just be able to pinpoint it that you were innocent and you didn't do anything and and you don't smoke, you don't drink, you're a square, like, all this bullshit. My own family called me a square, by the way. My own family, my mother and my uncle called me a square because I didn't want to underage drink at the time. Which is crazy because looking back at it now, it's like, oh, you guys are still taking time to pull shenanigans. And they literally acted like children. Me and my cousin were sitting inside most of the time, and we would either be talking with my grandma or watching a movie or eating a snack, whatever the fuck we're doing. And they would be out drinking and doing just fucking debaucherous shit. And they think it's funny, and they're like 40. But I'm a square because what does this say? You know, like what could I have been, right? Like if I was born in a different area and into different people, with me not wanting to drink and staying naive, right? Like, what would that have done? Could that have gotten me into a program that I succeeded in? Could that have gotten me a good job? Would it have prevented my alcoholism? You know, like somewhat alcoholism. I didn't get any shakes or anything, but I definitely had a minor issue with it. But like, you know, because it's like it gets beaten out of you, this innocence and the will to do the right thing, because that's something else me and Kyle will talk about, where it's like when you lose trust in your parent to protect your innocence and to just protect you in general and in themselves, when you watch when your parent isn't doing what they should be doing for themselves, like exercising and taking care of themselves and eating well, and you know, like I know the food pyramid's completely stupid and fucked up and doesn't make sense, but like you don't see your parent eat fruits or vegetables or healthy meats or whatever, you know, like you lose trust. And then I've talked about on here before, it's like when you see your parents breaking laws or breaking rules that you know are rules, and then they're telling you and condoning you to do the same thing, it's like, oh. So then the whole thing is ruptured. It's ruptured because you don't really know which way's up anymore, because your lifeline's telling you to do this one thing, but you have this tango with these rules that you've heard. You know what I mean? So it creates this very complicated world to live in as a child, and then you end up making decisions that you will regret in the future, which is 100% part of growing up. I'm not saying that it's not, but like, you know, I think about all the girls that were having sex in high school, and it's like, did you guys even really want to? Or were you doing it for clout? Because I remember that's why I fucking did it. Not in high school, but like, you know what I mean? So it's just, I've been thinking about my childhood and how much shit has happened in it that was so not appropriate for children. And then I'm tracing that to some of the actions that I took and the behaviors that I had in my early adulthood, which I'm still in. And I just find it interesting. I find it odd. I find it sad that the innocence of children is left to the hands of people who may or may not care about them. Because you can have a baby and you can look really excited holding that baby, but they send you home and that's it, right? Like, which that's a whole thing I could get on a rant about, is birthing in hospitals and shit like that, and death rate and all that, whatever. But, you know, it's just, it's crazy. But they kind of manipulated you enough to still stay within the system, you know? But you know something's wrong, but you're still staying in the system because it's all you know. So now I'm breaking out of it and I'm thinking differently and I'm daring to ask questions. And then you're labeled the weird person. It's like, you know what? That don't bother me. I've been weird my whole life. So, I don't know. I just find it interesting. I find it weird that preserving children's innocence isn't like a mandatory thing anymore. You know? Like, I just... Or was it ever? Was it ever? You know what I mean? That, like, was it ever? Because I think about the boomer generation. The boomer let their kids, you know, like come home when the street lights come on, right? And it's like, I mean, I don't even know if it was ever cultivated to protect the innocence of children, but I guess it needs to be now. And I'm just watching in the world, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm like, man, I really fell into every single trap and then had to dig myself out of that because nobody was there. I mean, I would spend nights and nights and nights alone because my mom's working, you know, and then that's a whole thing. Single mom, no father, like I've mentioned. It's just like, it literally, not that I'm going to let it, but it sets you up for fucking disaster. I mean, Like, what the fuck? And then everybody's broke. Nobody can afford anything. Everybody's mentally fucked up. People have been abandoned. Their fathers suck. Their mothers did this. They're narcissistic. It's like, and then now nobody really has a support group or a fucking team behind them or a tribe, because families just fucking blow. And they're so disrespectful. I mean, I've talked about my family and then also my boyfriend's family on here before. And it's wild. It's truly fucking wild. Yeah, I don't know. I only wonder, I guess, what it could have been like to be protected as a child, not to be sexualized. I was sexualized at an early age. It was too comfortable to talk about sex in my home, drugs, and it was more of obviously a friendship than it was a parental relationship. I lost trust in authority at such a young age by watching my mother, you kind of just get tanked in a way. And then you have to like do this whole thing in your 20s where you redo everything and you're a fucking mess. I'm not bitching. I'm not saying that it's not fair. Everybody has their struggles. So I've been just trying to own it more, but it definitely kind of blows. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I've been thinking about today after seeing that freaking old Rudolph movie. Just the innocence that I felt watching that, because Christmas was so amazing for me as a kid. That was what my family really pulled it together. I mean, Christmas and Thanksgiving, but Christmas was always awesome. I loved Christmas so much. I still love Christmas. It's just more sad these days since I don't have any family. And the family that I have around me, which is Kyle's family, blows. So I just don't associate really with them. And it's not out of like pure contempt. It's literally out of like, because I would sit down and have conversations with them, but these are people that aren't emotionally intelligent, so it's kind of just not really worth my time. But I have my little tree up, and we had a nice time. We celebrated 3 years, so me and Kyle have been together 3 years. And I think I've also been trying to focus on like, hey, this is a time for me. It's winter. I mean, the snow outside right now is coming down so heavy. It is so fucking beautiful. The winter is the time to go within. And then we're coming up on the year of the one, which is new beginnings. Maybe we can finally get some traction on this new shit for our life. And yeah, work on my own traditions for my own future family, and take that and make it as special as I can, because the whole romanticize your life thing, that's one of those trendy cliche things that I actually really like. It's like, yeah, fucking romanticize your life. What do you think everybody did without phones? They were in dreamland, man. So try and take more pit stops in dreamland, and then also worry a little bit less. Maybe I could make a little video on like my resolutions and stuff for the new year. Maybe that would be a fun idea. But I hope that you guys had a good Thanksgiving, and you guys are going to have a good Christmas, and you're staying safe wherever you guys are. Thanks for listening to my little mini pod today, and I shall talk to you later. Goodbye.